Rush. My favorite band, your favorite band. And even those who didn't once love Rush cannot deny their influence, their spectacular musicianship, the lyrics. But Rush, they were also the kings of all media. Three of the best players ever to play rock: Geddy Lee, Alex Lifeson, Neil Peart. Imagine that. So many bands have one great player, and then some other good players that surround them. You can think of some bands, right? Rush had all three. All three monsters, masters of their instruments. And Neil Peart, the master of words, giving us all those lyrics, over 20 albums worth of lyrics for all those years. Today we're talking about Rush. We're celebrating all of these years. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Got my drumsticks in case I make a bad joke. I can go. That's right. I've got my little drum machine here at the go, at the ready. I know it's silly, but hey, who cares, right? All right, guys, I'm Eric. We're going to have a lot of fun, and let's go. Well, I took a break. I was losing my voice, but we're back. All right, so now we're going to move from late 70s into the early 80s. And this is where Rush really started to become Rush. Starting out with A Farewell to Kings. Fantastic album. First track, Farewell to Kings. Second track, Xanadu. In recent days, this has been one of my dad's favorite songs. He started off with La Via Strangiato, and he knows every nuance of that song. But then he discovered Xanadu, and I have not heard the last of Xanadu. He talks about Xanadu all the time. And then, Closer to the Heart, one of the most played songs ever in all of their tours. It's possible they've played it in every tour. But yes, I mean, it's a fantastic song with amazing lyrics, closer to the heart, Cinderella Man, Magical, and finally Cygnus X-1. Of course, this is book one of Cygnus, and in this, of course, our fearless captain flies as Rosinante into a black hole and is torn apart at the atom level, right? Just obliterated. But it's that, the fact that there's a song about a guy in a spaceship flying into a black hole, soaring across the galaxies, past all these constellations and through these star systems and galaxies. And it's just, what an amazing song. I love Cygnus. One of my favorite songs, easily. Farewell to Kings. Next up in the list, of course, is the 40th anniversary of Farewell to Kings. And in this we have three. I believe one of these is a live album, previously unreleased. Really cool, right? And then it's got a nice big old beautiful book. The big old beautiful book right here. Okay. And it's got some really nice artwork, reproductions, and some new stuff, and a really nice big story at the beginning written by Rob Bowman. And of course, our boys right there, circa Farewell to Kings era. So, Farewell to Kings. Following that, we have to take it up a notch, right? And what do? We do Cygnus Book 2. And what is that? That is Hemispheres, the album. And technically the song. The first one is Cygnus X-1, Book 2, Hemispheres. Prelude, Apollo Dionysus, Armageddon, Cygnus, and the Sphere. And in this song, our captain finds himself like at the foot of Mount Olympus, and all the gods are warring. And it talks about how there's two sides to every man, or two sides to a people, right? There's this logical, mathematical, organized side, which is all work, no play. Makes Jack a dull boy, but the other side is art, right? And this is all illustrated by the man in the bowler's cap on one hemisphere of the brain. And then I just pointed the wrong way. And then the artsy guy who's fully nude on the other side. And the beautiful thing is that our main protagonist, he becomes the balance between the two. You can have both. Okay, you can have reason, okay, and common sense, and all those things of science and rational thought, but also we can be artistic and stuff, which really, in a big way, kind of defines Rush, right? They're creating art, but so much of it is, the science of music is math, okay? Music at its essence is math. Now you can treat it that way, or you can create art with it. But realizing, though, at its nuts and bolts level, though, all those beats and rests along the measure, that's all math, okay? And so really, it's that balance between the two, and we all must find balance in our lives. And that's where this follow-up, Book 2, is such a beautiful song. Again, one of my favorites, easily in the top 10, both Cygnuses, followed by Circumstances, The Trees, and then La Via Strangiato. Hemispheres, fantastic album. Next up, classic. And after all of the Cygnus, okay, and all of these massive undertakings, these multi-part songs, where they slaved over the parts and trying to record it in one pass, but having to give up and do it in multi, because they had written music that was almost beyond them. Of course it wasn't. It was them. So none of this music was beyond Rush. It was Rush pushing themselves. How much can we do? How much better can I play my bass and my drums and my guitar? And can I write these insanely complex songs with all of these time signatures and fluidly mixed into a cohesive musical narrative? That's Rush. But they wanted to free themselves from that, okay, and begin making modern music. And that declaration of independence was a spirit of radio. Opening track, right here on Permanent Waves. Followed by Free Will, another classic. Jacob's Ladder, I love that song. And actually, in high school, we had to find a famous playwright or poet, and then give an example of their work. And what did I submit? I submitted Jacob's Ladder. And my teacher actually found it really interesting. So I had the coolest teacher. Half my assignments, she let me turn in videos. I actually created videos for my English assignments because I would write them and I would produce and direct and edit them. And so I was producing videos in high school. And actually, I graduated high school because of my beginning talents, right? These are the salad. These are the early days, the green days. Green Day. But these are the really early days of video production. But I love that that's part of my story and how I got out of high school, with so many A's, basically. I mean, music gave me most of my A's, okay? My GPA was through the roof because all of my music, okay, from drama to all the chorus stuff, right, choral groups and stuff, to all the different bands I was in, school bands, those were all honor level, okay? And honor levels count a little bit more, okay, than college prep or whatever, basic. So basically, all of my honor level, I had a 3.78. That's from a guy who did nothing in high school except for look at pretty girls and hang out. That's all I did. I played music and I chased after girls. That was high school. So how I got away with being really high up, top of my class, music. It was all music. So I have music to thank for my success, my academic success in high school. The rest was just blind luck. And, you chase enough girls, you get to go out with a few. So how's that for, and now to finish things out. Okay, Jacob's Ladder, Entre Nous, Different Strings, and finally Natural Science. Only 6 tracks. 6 tracks, Permanent Waves. But I've mentioned it many times before. You guys know Natural Science is top 3, okay, of all time. Rush, my favorites. Natural Science, hands down. Because if I were to pick my favorite Rush songs, I like to think, what would I like to see them play live? What song do I want to experience with the boys, them playing it to me and all my brothers out in the audience? And natural science has always been at the top of that list. Okay, and right off the bat, I think, man, I really hope they play natural science this time. So that's kind of one of the criteria I do. Of course, I love of a song lyrically, musically. Check, check, check. And do I want to see it live? Check. 3 checks. Yeah, so natural science fits all those bills. So fantastic album. Now, we would not have their all-time masterpiece without this album. Okay? This was the harbinger of good things. And that, of course, is Moving Pictures. I mean, we all know it. We all love it. And it goes down in the okay, and by the way, here's another one where I have original and extra crispy. This one has all the herbs and spices, and this one is extra crispy. The special re-release. So yes, Moving Pictures. Tom Sawyer, Red Barchetta, YYZ, Limelight, The Camera Eye, Witch Hunt, and finally Vital Songs. So many great tracks, and through the years, Red Barchetta has grown on me so much. And you're probably thinking, hey, welcome to the party, dude. Well, it's about really embracing that story and what that story means on so many levels. Okay? Escaping the watchful eye of the government, of Big Brother, if you will, going far outside the wire to where my wide-haired uncle waits in that classic Hot Rod's waiting for him, right? In the barn, the Red Barchetta. And it's just waiting for him to take it out, and just the roar of the engine. And Neil, his lyrics, in probably one of the best, if not the best, portrayal in written, his written word in explaining what it feels like to roar down the highway in a beautiful car and feeling the wind and the the leathered oil and the roar of the tires and the engine and feeling the wind and that excitement, that exhilaration that we get when we just have an amazing car in an open road and a sense of adventure. And that's only grown on me through the years. And I love that. I love how the music doesn't change, right? This has not changed since the early 80s, Moving Pictures and Red Barchetta. However, it is we that change. With great art, it only gets better through time as we evolve and as we grow and as we bring new experiences and new memories and a new take or perspective on life. And I love that about art. And great art does that. It grows with you, and it grows beyond what it was initially. Such a beautiful thing. Moving Pictures. A beautiful thing. And finally, that was 4 albums. I think. They better be. Yes. A Farewell to Kings, 1. Hemispheres, 2. Moving Pictures, 3. And finally, our 4th album, Moving Pictures. Permanent Waves, Moving Pictures. And finally, of course, after 4 albums, what do we get? Our next live album, Exit Stage Left. There's been a lot of talk about how it's recorded, how much audience you can hear it all. I've heard debates about that. I've heard that on a TV show, Getty discussing this with some guys. But let's just say it's just great to have another live album. This is another classic one on here. Of course, Spirit of Radio, Red Barchetta, YYZ, Closer to the Heart, Beneath, Between, Behind, Jacob's Ladder, Brune's Bane, which is the only place you can find that. It's not on an album. It's an acoustic thing that leads into The Trees, Brune's Bane. The Trees, of course, following that. Xanadu, Free Will, Tom Sawyer, and La Via Strangiato. We're solid, square in the 80s now, okay? Rush's sound starts to evolve, all right? Morph. They're trying new things. They're influenced by the bands that they're listening, like the Police and other new wave stuff from Britain and influences from pop and reggae. So all these influences are baked right into Rush's music because, as Neil described, they were young enough to appreciate and love the music of the day, the good stuff. And because of that, it influenced them. And of course, if Neil's, he is like, man, I love that kind of that syncopation of that reggae, right? He's going to bake that into his drum parts for the next album. And it becomes part of their lyrical narrative. And what am I talking about? The beginning of this is Signals, which is such a great album, by the way. Subdivisions, classic. Classic. I was just talking about high school, right? This reflects so many of our stories. And a lot of you have been there. Heck, I was there. Yeah, I wasn't one of the upper echelon kids that got invited to every party on the weekend. Heck, my parents wouldn't let me go. I'm sure I could sneak out, but my friends and I, we had our own thing going on. Most of it music related, but the point is, I wasn't one of those kids. I know what it feels like to be the protagonist of this song and to be the focus of Subdivisions. But it really speaks to a bigger narrative, a bigger story that we see throughout society, right? The subdivisions, the things that divide us. And so often, the things that unite us, okay, are humanity, family, love, work. There's so many things that actually unite us. And what's really unfortunate is that some people tend to focus on the negative. And some people, that's all they can do is focus on the negative and look for division and actually try to promote division. That's going on today. That is happening right now. And it always will be, unfortunately. There's always going to be people, and a lot of this is politically driven. There's always going to be people who seek to divide, who know nothing else in their soul but conflict, contempt, sadness, rage, anger, bitterness, everything that is the opposite of what we should be to one another. Some people, that's all they know. I have one word, it's 3 letters. It's sad. My heart weeps for these people. And I wish I could reach them. I wish we could reach them and show them a better way. Man, it's very frustrating watching what's happening, watching people try to drive an otherwise peaceful and happy and prosperous society towards war. Why would you want that? We can talk more about that sometime, but let's just say, once again, Neil Peart's lyrics are right on the money in his observations about the world and his ability to then convey that to us through through simple lyrics, right? Lyrics that we can easily understand, making the complex understandable. That's a good teacher, and that's Neil Peart. So again, wow, Subdivisions, great stuff. Also on Signals, The Analog Kid. Love this song. I love Analog Kid. For some of the similar reasons as why I love Red Barchetta, it's that spark and vitality of youth, right? Where a lazy day lying in the grass or the wheat in the sun, one between his teeth, but thinking about that lovely young lady with the sun-brown legs, right? Dancing on the edge of his dream. And his mom calls him, but he pulls his cap down like he doesn't want to be bothered. I've been there. I think a lot of us have been there, right? We want to escape. We want to dream about the things that young men dream about. The good things, right? The things that make us happy. And there's so much more to that, but, that's just off the top of my head. Oh, Analog Kid, beautiful. Chemistry. Okay, and we've talked about this in some of my other videos. We talked about chemistry and Digital Man in The Weapon and the New World Man, Losing It. Ooh, Losing It. Wow. Potent song. Beautiful. Haunting song with that violin part. I'm so glad they played that more than once. Of course, they played that in the R40 tour. And, and even had what's his name's brother, the guy from Game of Thrones. I'm gonna forget his name. Help me out, guys. But the point is, haunting, beautiful, losing it, love it, and finally Countdown. Love Countdown, and again, the boys got to go see one of the launches of the space shuttle. And I would love to do that someday myself, even if it's one of Musk's rockets. I don't care. I would love to see a liftoff of a vehicle headed to space, because that is my dream. I've had this dream since I can remembering things, like my entire life. Since I was a small boy, I've dreamt of sailing through the stars and the galaxy and escaping Earth's orbit. That sense of adventure, but instead of Earth, finding it out there in space. Okay, it's why I love sci-fi, and Countdown is like the beginning of that adventure, right? It's that liftoff to the unknown, the otherwise impossible, but made possible by work and determination and dreams and science and brave men who risked it all to get in these jalopy machines, especially back in the day, right? Especially even with the space shuttle. But in the earliest days of the Apollo program, they didn't know if they'd blow up at any moment, or if the heat shields would hold, or if they'd come down from just one test flight. It was ridiculous cowboy stuff that we did back then. And, here in America is what I'm talking about, the NASA and the space program. Ridiculous what they pulled off. It's just the height of what humans can do. It's just beautiful. And all of that is so beautifully portrayed, okay, in Signals. Next up, Square, solid, right smack in the middle of the 80s. And again, just fell right out. My remastered version, original version. There's the boys, circa Grace Under Pressure. Grace Under Pressure, here we go, guys. Distant Early Warning. After Image. Beautiful, beautiful song. I believe he wrote that after they lost a friend. And we've used that song with reference to losing Neil, of course, since then. Red Sector A, The Enemy Within, The Body Electric. I've talked about this many times. Love that song. All right, The Android in the Distress, which I used to inspire my character from my book, Fixus, which is an android that Fixus looks like how I imagined the android from this song to look. So huge inspiration for me. Can't say enough. Kid Gloves, again, I've talked about it before, how it's in 5/4. Love it. Red Lenses. And finally, Between the Wheels. I love Between the Wheels, and I love it when they play that live. So this was next, Grace Under Pressure. Moving on to Power Windows. Big Money. Oh, I loved it. When they open certain tours and concerts with Big Money. So much power and just force and energy baked into that song. Beautiful stuff. Grand Designs. I love Grand Designs. Manhattan Project. Oh, such an amazing song. Okay. And, it's so great that Neil wrote this way back in the 80s, the Manhattan Project, about, what happened with the Manhattan Project so many years before. But then Christopher Nolan actually makes Oppenheimer. Best Picture, all right? And what did he get? Best Director, and, just won all these awards. Fantastic, huge movie about that very thing. And it's so great that, this full circle moment, right? Where Neil wrote the song and we finally get a movie to show us those events. So great. Next up is Marathon, followed by Territories, Middletown Dreams. We've talked about this many times. Love Middletown Dreams. Parts of that song reflect my life. Emotion Detector, and finally Mystic Rhythms. So many great things in here. There's the guy who, by the way, he kind of looks like my brother-in-law, Will. The guy on the cover here, blonde, and heck, all their kids, my sister and her husband, they're all little blonde, so they've got several of their boys and him that actually kind of look like the guy, which is kind of cool, on Power Windows. And here we go. Album number 4 in this era is Hold Your Fire. Yeah, this is a softer era, as I believe Getty called it, and there's my remastered one. Man, I was thorough. Getty called it kind of a softer, jazzier space with this album, and it was. And yet, in the grand pantheon of the grand scheme of Rush music, it has its place. I love that about Rush. It's not all driving hard, fast rock. Okay? I think we love, at least I do, a lot of you probably share this very sentiment, that we love progressive music because it challenges us, because it has different movements and different sections, and there's a softer, really melodic part, and there might be a piano in there. At times there's a saxophone. Okay, think about Images and Words with a Dream Theater, okay? Where they got a fantastic jazz sax player to play on a couple of the tracks, for example. Symphonic and adding orchestra pieces and different instrumentations. It's all that experimentation and looking and pushing the boundaries of what rock can be. That's progressive rock. So if you look at all of the catalog and all these albums of Rush, why not have a movement of this entire piece, 20 albums, that is softer, right? An interlude along the way. We have this era, and we're getting into the 80s, and we're doing this. We have a softer, mostly, okay, really gentle, if you will, okay, delicate album here. But then, guess what? They kind of course correct, and they move on to different music, okay? That's why we love them. Therefore, this has its place. That's my quick take on Hold Your Fire. So, Force 10, Time Stands Still. Oh, love that song. Open Secrets. It's hard to read this black text on the red. Open Secrets and Second Nature, Prime Mover, Lock and Key. Mission, Turn the Page, Taishan, and High Water. A couple of the last tracks heavily influenced by Neil's time that he spent in China. I believe he went on different bicycle tours over there. Some of the rhythms and his lyrics reflected that peaceful serenity he found in mountaintops in China. 4 albums, okay? Signals, 1. Grace Under Pressure, 2. Power Windows, Hold Your Fire, 4. And this is my first live album. Okay, I just discovered Rush right around this time. And again, it started with 2112. And as each one of us have discovered Rush, unless you were there in the very beginning, okay? But those of us who weren't, we discover them, and then we start building our catalog. We're going backwards and forward from that day, right? So all subsequent releases from that time, okay, from whatever that year was, we then buy new. And we're going to talk more about that in a moment. But, of course, hearing the drum solo, the rhythm method on this album was nothing short of mind-blowing. My friends and I, a couple of us, we loved Rush. We brought it to one of the drummers in our marching band. Yeah, he played toms, right? So he had the, 5, I think, toms. He's playing different toms. And the kind that you wear, the shoulder straps. We played that for him after some rehearsal for something. And he's like, this cannot be one guy. He was like blown away. He's like, this cannot be one man. So anyway, obviously he must have listened to really crappy rock on his own, outside of school or whatever, for him to not even know that there are really good drummers out there. Okay. This happens to be the best. So he was blown away. It's quite cool. So, a show of hands, classic, right? Get the intro. Dun, 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 dun. All right, so Big Money, Subdivisions, Marathon, Turn the Page, Manhattan Project, Mission, Distant Early Warning, Mystic Rhythms, Witch Hunt, The Rhythm Method, Force 10, Time Stands Still, Red Sector A, and Closer to the Heart. That's that era. And now we get into more of the modern music.